What's going on, guys? My name is Matt, and this is the story of the ITX RX 480 no one could buy. When AMD released the RX 480, it marked a point in which AMD was able to put out both a powerful and power-efficient GPU. The RX 480 boasted near GTX 980 performance for only $200 and an impressively low 150-watt TDP. A while after the RX 480 launched, I was in the market for an ITX graphics card. At the time, my system was in the Johnspo C2 computer case, a very compact ITX enclosure with only enough room for a short ITX card. My budget put me in the market for a GTX 1060 or RX 480 as I wanted to spend around $250 for a card. The idea of going with AMD seemed really compelling to me. Not only would it have allowed me to test the latest GPU architecture from AMD, but it also would have allowed me to take advantage of FreeSync and the budget FreeSync monitors, which cost considerably less than their G-Sync equivalents. So because of this, I hopped onto Amazon and Newegg and began to peruse the selection of available RX 480s. After finding no ITX cards on Amazon and then none on Newegg, I turned to my good friend Google and searched to see if any company was making ITX RX 480s. This brought me to a few different forums in which people were discussing the possibility of an ITX 480. To my dismay, I came to the conclusion that there were no ITX 480s, nor did any company plan on making one. Because of this, I said to heck with it and decided on purchasing a different GPU that would fit in my case. Fast forward about 6 months to a year later, and I came across a listing on eBay for what looked to me like an OEM 480 that had a short ITX PCB. This surprised me as my aforementioned research found that no such card existed. After doing a little digging, I found that HP was including these small 480s in some of their Pavilion desktop computers. So I began searching to see if you could buy them anywhere, and again checked Amazon, Newegg, and even HP's website, and found there was nowhere to buy a new ITX RX 480 unless purchased inside of a new Pavilion desktop. Combine this with the fact GPU prices were very high at the time, and only a few of these cards a month would show up on eBay, it made it virtually impossible to get one of these cards, so at that point I kinda stopped my search to buy a small RX 480. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, after the cryptocurrency mining crash, after the new Nvidia architecture release, and after a flood of used GPUs hit eBay, I began looking for good deals on used GPUs. I found that RX 480s were going for really low prices. I'm talking an average of around $125. I also found that there were a good number of HP ITX RX 480s listed on eBay, so I watched the listings and eventually bid on and won one of these guys for only $100 shipped. This was a far cry from the $300 or more people were paying for RX 480s not too long ago. Getting the card in and booting it up, I found it was working fine. My biggest complaint about this card is the aesthetics. This is just about the only modern card I've seen with a green PCB, and the red accents don't help either. That is, of course, unless you're doing a Christmas build, then the red and green combo of this card works great. Looks aside, at only 7 inches long, this card is almost exactly as long as an ITX motherboard is wide, making it perfect for ITX builds. Not only this, but the PCB height is only barely above reference size, meaning case compatibility should be really good. The cooler design on this card is pretty interesting. It's kind of a combination between open air and blower style. While the shroud is definitely shaped in a way to direct air to the back of the card, it's also open in a few spots, which leads me to believe this card could work great in a number of airflow configurations. In terms of the heatsink, it's a copper heat pipe and aluminum fin design like you normally find in open air cards, which seems to do a reasonably good job at dissipating heat. The video output choice on this card is also pretty interesting. It features 3 DisplayPort outputs and 1 HDMI. This is cool to see, as while DVI and VGA are sometimes useful for older monitors, most everything seems to be moving to DisplayPort. This card uses a single 6-pin power connector, which while not ideal for overclocking, it provides adequate power to this GPU. Now I think everyone here has seen RX 480 benchmarks at this point, so I wanted to do something a little different when testing. So what I decided to do is a little follow-up to my latest video, which was a $300 used part build featuring an overclocked 1156 Xeon and a $75 GTX 770. In that video, I questioned whether spending more for an RX 480 would have been worth it, so I popped this in and retested the system with the 480, and here are the results. In Overwatch at 1080p with everything set to medium, which is harder to run than the medium preset, the RX 480 had an average of 121 FPS with 1% lows of 85. This was a 15% increase in performance over the 770 with a pretty substantial increase in 1% lows. Moving on to PUBG at 1080p medium settings, the 480 had an average of 82 FPS with 1% lows of 51. This was a 34% increase in FPS over the 770, which is a pretty big jump in performance. Moving on to Fortnight at 1080p with these pro settings, the RX 480 had a 118 FPS average with 1% lows of 82. This was around a 30% increase in FPS, which again is a pretty big jump up for only spending $25 more. Finally, for one of the latest and hardest to run games, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, with everything set to low, the 480 had a 71 FPS average, which is a good bit higher than the 53 FPS average of the 770. So as you can see, for 1080p gaming, the RX 480 is a really great performer. Keep in mind these numbers are with a 480 paired with a pretty old CPU, so pairing it with something more modern is sure to give you more performance. I'm actually going to feature this card in an upcoming ITX build, so if you want to get notified of that when it comes out, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Overall, for $100, I'm really happy with this purchase. After many months of searching and having to wait out the GPU price apocalypse, I'm so glad I finally got my hands on the mythical ITX RX 480. So yeah guys, I think this wraps this video up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, as well as consider subscribing for more PC and tech related content in the future. And as always, this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.